as much as I want to tear into the MCU Phase 4 as a whole, I'm going to limit this rant down to episode 6 of Moon Knight. That piece of garbage episode that I actually did watch when I couldn't sleep. And I regret it. I guess I should have stayed up with my insomnia and just wait for sleep to take me than watching this awful episode. It doesn't make any sense. It makes me hate the character Layla more than I ever hated her throughout the entire series. This woman wasn't worth saving. This woman wasn't worth dying for. This woman wasn't worth fighting for because she was capable of doing everything herself. And I hated her even further towards the end. At least she showed a little bit of sadness when Mark died, supposedly. At least she showed that. But throughout the entire series, I hated her further. And of course, the MCU, well, of course, anything that's ran by Kevin Feige can't help but making another so-called wannabe pseudo-female superhero. You're gonna turn down Khonshu, make this ridiculous speech about how he's gonna be enslaving you and you're not a slave to him, but you choose Taweret, the hippo goddess. Okay, that makes plenty of sense. And then you also get me even more confused when episode 5 was probably one of the best in the entire series. It was the best fleshed out episode in the entire series, explaining Mark's DID, explaining the fact that he had multiple personality disorder and how Stephen Grant came to be. That was probably one of the best episodes that I could actually praise about Moon Knight as a whole. But episode 6 just ruined it, because you're gonna go back into the sand of the damned. You're pretty much gonna go back into like the desert of the damned to go and get Stephen. He's pretty much a figment of your imagination, someone that's not real. Episode 5 proved that he wasn't real. Now I know people like the whole neurotic simp. You know, that's pretty much what everyone seems to love these days. And everyone wants to go back and get the neurotic Stephen because he's endearing. He was made that way. Stephen Grant was made to be neurotic, be scared, to be innocent, to be someone who was free from violence. He was created that way. He's not even real. And the fact that they're trying to make him real, it made more sense for the scales to be balanced because he finally was able to let Stephen go because he didn't need him anymore. Yet he goes back into the desert of the damned to go get a figment of your imagination. To come to get... It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense to me. But what was the worst, two of the worst possible moments in this entire episode was, number one, how in the world can you cut the climax out? Now, I know this was something going on throughout the series. He would black out, and then all of a sudden he would figure out, okay, what happened here? How did I get here? How come this person's dead? That made sense. But good Lord, we didn't even get a climax. We didn't even get a big fight. It ended before it even started. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And they know they're not going to make another season of this. And you're just going to cut that out? And what made it even worse was the pre-credit scene. Or the post-credit scene, however you call it. It was before the long credits that people have to sit after. That sit through to get to the nitty-gritty. I call the pre-credit scene. You're going to finally show Jake Lockley, after we saw his so-called persona locked up in a sarcophagus. They didn't even bother to go back and look at that for episode 5. And somehow we ended up seeing him. And I know there were hints of him in, I think it was episode 5 or 4. We ended up seeing hints of him in that episode, only for him to be taken over by Khonshu. Here's my question. Okay, there's a difference between a soul and a persona. Like, a persona is something that you create, but it's not real. A soul is your mind. If he already took over Mark, which is Mark's body, which is Mark's mind, Jake Lockley is a persona. Now, I know people be like, well, it's in the comics. The thing is, it's so put together in the worst possible way that I'm sorry, not even I can buy it, and I don't even know anything about Moon Knight. But it doesn't even get me interested to even watch this thing. Why? I don't get it. I don't understand. People were waiting for the third persona forever, and you're just gonna close it out and then be over, and then Harold die by his hand when he should have died by the hands of Mark? It was dumb. The entire series tried to be what it wasn't. It tried to be Memento. Memento is probably one of the best movies I ever watched, but it was way better than this piece of garbage. At least we had clues going throughout, and we were rooting for the guy from the very beginning. We were rooting for the protagonist, only for the twist to happen in the end, which made it more devastating for people holding on to him. But the issue is we had nothing here to grab on. We just had to follow. And yes, I will admit, episode 5 was probably one of the best. And this is where Marvel always go wrong. They always start off okay or strong, and they always go wrong in the middle, and then they just completely flatline in the end. In this case, it didn't go well in the beginning. It went kind of well in the middle. On the 5th episode, towards the end, it was even better, but then they just completely flatline in. Phase 4 sucks. It 100% sucks. Moon Knight, as a whole, could have ended off strong, but it ended in a whimper, and they're not even gonna do another season of this. For those who have not seen episode 6, do not see it. It's a bunch of trash. It's garbage. It's garbage, not even worth being stepped on. And yeah, when Layla ended up in somehow becoming Tuareg's avatar, and she has wings, and then she's able to block things, and then all of a sudden that one girl, are you a superhero? Stop it. Just stop it. Stop with the MCU, please. Oh my gosh, that can be a whole nother video in itself, how much I hate the MCU. But I'm not even gonna get into that right now. Moon Knight could have ended out strong. It could have. It went completely left, right, and sideways to where I couldn't even follow it in the beginning. But it started to get better in episode 5 when we started to understand a little bit more about Mark and how Steven came to be and who was the real one. But we didn't even see the third one until the post-credit scene or pre-credit scene, which I think is a joke. And they could have had everything come together in episode 5. And then honestly, you know what? Instead of being completely ragey in this whole thing, even though it is a pile of garbage to me, and I'm sorry, Moon Knight could have ended off strong, but it just ruined itself towards the very end. And a lot of people are not going to like the entire season because of this. And for me, I was confused throughout, but episode 5 made more sense, and episode 6 just ruined it. But this is an angle that I wish that they went on. And I do want to hear y'all's comments about this to see whether or not you agree, or if you have your own idea of how episode 6 should have went out. I really do believe, and this is the one thing that the MCU has not done yet, and they really do need to do it. For me to at least have a tad bit of respect for them, they need a female villain. Kayla should have been the villain. To be honest with you, I would have really understood Mark's fear of her going over to Khonshu and being the Avatar if she was crazier than him. If she was to the point where she was more insane than Mark, and that if she encountered powers through Khonshu to be his avatar, that would be a reason for him to be scared and trying to defend her. Of course, you have old simpish Steven over there, all neurotic and falling in love with her and pretty much on the verge of passing out from a joygasm. Anything when it comes to Layla. But the thing is, Mark knows her best. And if he knows the fact that she could have been more insane than him, and if anybody or any type of Egyptian god gives her powers, she would absolutely go nuts. And the bloodthirst would be even more and more and more, to where she will murder a lot of people. That would be a reason to be scared. That will be a reason to be fearful. That will be a reason to protect her. Because of course, with her strong nature that nobody can protect her, The fact that she's more aggressive and she fights more than him, and the fact that she still has rage towards her father's death and still blames Mark, that is another reason why her rage will continue through Khonshu. Could it have been a possibility for her to be possessed by, I think it's Eminent. I probably got the name wrong. But the fact that Harrow was following Eminent, and correct if I'm wrong about the Egyptian goddess's name in the comments, please correct me. But the fact that she became her avatar and she became more bloodthirsty and was able to do more of a bigger job than Harrow could, because if Eminent betrayed Harrow and she became the next avatar, that would be a reason for a major battle in the end. That'll be conflict. You'll see exactly where it's going to go next. There'll be conflict between Steven and Mark to where Steven is completely out of the picture. Or if he never went back for Steven, it would just be Mark having to face his fears. It would be Mark having to face a huge conflict. It would have made more sense and been more dramatic because there would have been more stakes. It would have been a woman that he loves, the woman he was married to, that he has to fight and stop to save the world. Why didn't you have that? Have a female villain, a strong female villain for the protagonist to feed off of, to where it would actually bring more character to the protagonist as well as bringing character to the villain. That's what they needed to do, at least in my opinion. But they ruined that by, of course, having her be an avatar of Tuaret for reasons. And it just landed in a whimper. It could have been better. But anyway, y'all, I really want to hear your thoughts about this. How would you end this series? How would you end episode 6? I really do want to hear how you guys would actually do this. Because I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, Moon Knight was trash.